Alright, so we're making a seat for the scooter. I'm fairly excited about this. I have already traced out my outline here for the seat. This guy here. And so now I'm ready to cut this out, and this time I'm going to cut it out on a plasma cutter. I think that'll be a lot easier and quicker. If you want a more detailed video, I've got one I'll link in the description of this video. I'm making basically the same seat, same techniques, just in more detail. Alright, now with my general shape cut out, I want to grind this stuff down and refine that shape, because now, right now we have these rough edges, we have slag and dross and all that stuff on here, and we got to get rid of that, clean this up, make it look a little bit neater. Alright, so here's our finished seat pan, and I'm just thinking I am now going to have to make another hinge thing, which will go up here or whatever, so we can hinge this part of the seat like that, right? I've also got these things that I ordered. Little seat springs. I swear, these are the things that they use for like those hand exercisers, right? I got a couple of these. I need to make like a place where I can bolt this to the bottom of the seat. Alright, so I've got some scrap metal here from a plasma CNC project. And so these little dimensions right here are going to be perfect for what I want. Alright, so I'm using my lathe here to drill a hole in a piece of 1/2-inch rod. And then we're using the lathe again to cut that rod nice and neat. Trim that piece off. And here's that same piece that we just drilled out. And the piece we just cut out of that CNC scrap. I'm going to weld that stuff together, and then I'm going to weld it onto the bottom of the pan here. And again, this is my welding table coming into play here that is super nice to align all this stuff. This pan, it always looked odd when I was looking at it. The little hinge piece that we're welding on was at a weird angle. It always looked like it just had a weird angle. But because I have it aligned with that table, I know that it's straight. Alright, now with this little guy welded on here, you can see, take a look at that. It's on there about like that high and whatnot. And now I can flip this thing over, and I have marked, I hope we can see this. I've got several marks going down here every 1/2 inch. I'm going to line this up in my press brake. I'm going to bend this ever so slightly going down, and that will give us our curve on the back of this. And here we are using my press brake, and I've got this my homemade press brake. This is a Harbor Freight press, and then I've made this little brake that goes inside it out of some scrap metal, some scrap angle iron essentially, and a bunch of other pieces. And it's all pretty heavy gauge, like 1/4 inch angle, etc. on this thing, and it works great for the stuff I'm doing. I'm not doing any heavy industry stuff, so most of the things I work with are like this seat pan are 1/8 of an inch thick. I find that sort of sheet metal to be just perfect for a lot of stuff. It's a great human-sized metal. Alright, so I drilled out a hole here and a hole there. That's going to be for these guys to go on. And to hold them on the bottom, I cut that bolt. I'm going to weld it on from the other side. Plug weld it from the other side here. Plug welding, I really like plug welding. It makes everything look really clean. The seat pan is pretty much done at this point in terms of the pan itself. Now we can go ahead and paint this guy and then put our foam on it and our leather on it, and it's going to be so pretty. I'm using some acetone here to clean it up before I paint it. Seat pan is painted. Now it's time for some foam. And I'm using, this is stuff I used before in a previous seat project. This is a Gorilla Glue adhesive, spray adhesive. It seems to work great. I used to use the 3M Super 77. I've used that before. And this seems to be, from what I can tell, the same stuff. And the foam I like to use is the Minicell foam. It's a closed cell, high density foam. It works great. It's actually surprisingly comfortable. They use the same stuff for kayaks. It's basically waterproof, which I think is a nice option on a motorcycle seat that's going to see weather potentially. It's not going to absorb water on you. And I just got the flat disc here to clean stuff up. This takes away that foam really quick. You got to be careful. I've got some nice black leather. This looks kind of, I mean, it's so black it looks kind of purple, but it's okay leather. If you're a real leather working person, this is okay. It's kind of scrap leather really, because it's got some holes in here and there, and the texture changes on it a little bit here and there, and those are imperfections. But for a $50 scooter, it is high-end stuff. And I'm going to trace out my outline here. I've got a little compass that I'm using to space out. I've got the actual dimensions of the seat pan with the outline, and I'm spacing the leather out a little bit further than that seat pan so it'll stick off the edges. And then that's where we'll be able to stitch it together. And I've been doing a lot of leather working lately, and I really like it. There's something very therapeutic about leather work. It's a nice material to touch. Working with it is a lot of fun. Stitching it up, for some reason, it takes forever to hand stitch leather, but it's soothing somehow. I don't know how. And then when it actually comes together, it seems to be such a high, such a durable material. I really enjoy working with it. It's durable yet soft and nice to touch. I made a couple bags and things lately, gifts for people for Christmas, that sort of thing, and it's quite fun. This is the second Christmas in a row where I've done leather gifts for people, and it's rewarding because it seems like such a high-end product, that you're giving people. And the leather itself, at least the leather that I've been using, is usually the economy type leather where I buy it. I've been buying it in like large sections. I bought a whole cow once, and it's like I've been using that. I still have pieces of that, and then I bought whole sides and things. I recently bought some stuff that's the same leather that they use for Red Wing boots, and it's really cool leather, but it's stuff that wasn't good enough for the company Red Wing to actually make stuff out of. The scrap from the Red Wing factory kind of thing. The discards, the stuff they couldn't use, and so it has little scratches or scars and things like that on it from when the cow was running around, and not perfect enough for boots. For me, for practicing, for making stuff, man, it is nice thick leather, and it has a great feel to it. It's well made, well tanned leather. I feel like I'm making some high-end gifts out of that stuff, I can tell you. And here's one of the bags I've made before, is this little bag I'm using currently to hold some leather working gear in, some thread and needles and things like that. It's a nice little bag, and very utilitarian but fancy at the same time. Adds a little bit of style to my life, Makes me feel like I'm not poor. But I get that way by my own sweat equity, making nice things for myself. But yeah, stitching this seat up, this took me like at least 2 hours to stitch this up, which is faster than I did the first seat, I'll tell you. But there were some mistakes I made on this, in this process right here, this step right here, stitching it up. I didn't get my spacing the way I would like it to have been. It's not as neat and not as uniform of the thread spacing on the sides there. So if you know what you're looking at, it looks unprofessional. If I was an actual company or a person working in a company that made seats, this would be a second where you wouldn't be able to sell this on the full retail market. You would have to send this off as a discard kind of thing, where it's not as good, not good enough. We live and we learn, though, and this is still a great seat for a $50 scooter. This is very high end for a $50 scooter. And what's also interesting, I talked to a professional bike builder once at that one show I had a bike in. And he was a guy who traveled to all kinds of events. He was once at a show in Canada, and he got points off on his bike because his seat did not have leather on both sides. It only had leather on the top and not the bottom, and he got points off for that. And which I found fascinating because I had my seat available at the time I was talking to him, and it has leather on both sides, and it's just the way that I do it here, and to me it makes it easier to make the seat that way, and that's why we had it that way. So, but just something interesting to know, this is apparently a higher end technique, at least in Canada. All right, so this bike that the seat is going on, this is my scooter. This is my $50 scooter. There's a whole build series on this scooter, a series of videos. So if you want to see more about what the heck is going on with this, I've got a weird front end that I've made, and we're doing a weird frame to go along with that. And there will be a weird shell that goes on it as well. So if you want to see something weird, check out the build series on this. I'll put a link in the description to that build series, the playlist for that. Yeah, I bought it for $50. It was wrecked, and now we're trying to make it into something fun and have fun along the way making it.